Chapter 17, Wednesday, Hidden. The girl cowered on her knees, arms tied behind her back. Her blue eyes were wide over the white gag that separated her full red lips. Her black hair tumbled over her shoulders. Nick's drawing was only in pencil, but in his head he still saw the colors. He was seated in the far back corner of the meeting space at the sheriff's office, his free hand shielding his paper. Doodling helped him focus on what was being said, allowed him to sit still. He had found that most adults didn't understand, not just the act of drawing, but his choice of subject matter. One of his teachers had even claimed his drawings were disturbing, which was ridiculous. Tonight they were covering urban searches, John said, usually in an urban area, or looking for either very young children or old people with Alzheimer's. He clicked on the next PowerPoint slide, which showed a guy in a yellow helmet carrying a sleeping toddler. In some ways, it's easier because the navigational landmarks in an urban area are pretty clear. I mean, we've got street signs, but urban searches are also harder, because the subject may not want to be found, or may be purposely hidden by an abductor. Nick started a new drawing, one with him on it, a slightly idealized version of him. Some of the other guys in class looked more like men, with muscled chests and thick arms. Nick was wearing a t-shirt he'd gotten in ninth grade, and he still didn't fill it out all the way. In the drawing, he gave himself strong arms to hold the girl, her head hanging back, her breasts jutting out like twin mountains. At the break, he tucked the paper in the back of his binder, then gathered with the others around the lemonade and tray of rubbery snickerdoodles from Safeway that the sheriff's office provided. "Can I give you guys a ride home tonight?" Ruby asked Alexis. She was using a napkin to pick up a carton of lemonade. Nick had noticed she didn't seem to like to touch things. "Sure," Nick said. He far preferred Ruby's car to the bus. But why was Ruby offering both of them a ride? Alexis lived on the other side of the river. Not that he would mind riding with her. "Oh, that's okay," Alexis was already starting to move away. "I'll just take the bus. Actually, it's important." The lemonade dripped on the table when Ruby set it down. Instead of wiping it with a napkin, she swiped it up with the cuff of her sweater. "There's something I need to talk to both of you about." She leaned closer and whispered, "In private, about the girl." By the time she had reached the word girl, Ruby was only mouthing it. Alexis's eyes widened, and then she nodded. "Is this really your car, Ruby?" Alexis asked after she opened the passenger door of the black Scion, illuminating the interior. Nick remembered how surprised he felt when he had first gotten a ride with Ruby. How could someone who seemed to have issues with germs have such a filthy car? The interior was filled with loose papers covered with scribbled notes, thoughts, and diagrams. Some of the papers were actually unopened mail. Bowls, plates, sprinkled with breadcrumbs, and wilted bits of lettuce were stacked on the back seat and scattered across the front passenger floor next to cups with dried orange juice or old coffee congealed on the bottom. "Sorry," Ruby said absently, as Nick clambered into the back seat, bulldozing everything over to the other side. Alexis picked up a garbage-stuffed Burger King bag from the front passenger seat, and then looked around uncertainly. "What should I do with this?" Ruby tossed it over her shoulder and said, "So, the dead girl's name was Miranda Wyatt, and she lived in West Hills." How do you know that?" Nick asked. The West Hills was one of Portland's most expensive neighborhoods. "I overheard Chris telling John." He guessed it hadn't been much of an accident. Ruby was like a cat, always quiet, creeping around the edges, slipping unseen through the shadows. "And I've been thinking," she continued, "we're the only ones who found her. We're the ones who talked to all those people that day. Maybe we saw something that could help find the killer." "That's why Harriman interviewed us," Nick said, "but we didn't see anything." "Sometimes things that don't seem like clues turn out to be," Ruby said. "Don't you want to help figure out who did it?" "Are we supposed to not talk about it?" Alexis asked. "That was only talking to outsiders," Ruby said, "not people in SAR. I think whoever killed Miranda Wyatt might be a serial killer." A thrill raced from the soles of Nick's feet to the top of his head. "A serial killer?" Alexis didn't look impressed. "This isn't a movie, Ruby." "There are serial killers in real life, Alexis, not just in movies," Ruby said with more than a trace of impatience in her voice. "The FBI estimates that right now there are somewhere between 35 and 50 serial killers active in the U.S. alone. And that girl we found, Miranda, she isn't the first dead girl found in Portland Park." She pulled a printout from her pocket and put it on the center console, then turned on the overhead light. "Check this out." Nick and Alexis bent over the article. Ruby stabbed her finger at the photo of the hoodie the body had been found in. "They're saying that she was an adult, but look at that hoodie. I've seen that brand at my high school a lot. And that particular one is all pink and glittery on the back. No adult would wear that. I tried to tell Detective Harriman, but he wouldn't listen. He thinks the two deaths aren't connected because the victims are too different. One's a white, rich girl, and one's a homeless black woman." Alexis thought, but didn't say, that an adult like her mom might still wear that hoodie. But they were both strangled, Nick pointed out. According to him, a lot of people are strangled. But that doesn't mean it's a serial killer. But the thing is, some serial killers strangle their victims because they like having the ultimate power. It's literally in their hands as to whether the victim lives or dies. At Ruby's words, Alexis shivered, and then drew her coat tighter around her. Nick wished that she were sitting in the back seat with him, so he could casually drape his arm over her shoulder. Ruby continued. The FBI says there are 2 kinds of serial killers, organized and disorganized. Disorganized ones are messy and don't have a plan. This guy is probably organized, which means he's smart, plans his crimes, and lures his victims, as opposed to forcing them. Ted Bundy used to put a fake cast on his arm and ask victims to help him carry his books. Or organized serial killers will target people who willingly go with strangers, like prostitutes. They follow their own crimes in the media, and that is really weird. It's pretty common that after they're caught, people who know them say they are kind and would never hurt anyone. How could that happen? Alexis asked. How could they be like 2 different people? A lot of serial killers are sociopaths. They are born without empathy. They don't understand that other people have feelings too. It's like they're born broken. Most of the time they try to fit in. But if you got something they want, you're about as important to them as the paper wrapper a hamburger comes in.